Welcome to the morning mist. Welcome to the fog. Welcome to the darkness. Welcome to Above and Beyond Schizophrenia. My name is Paul, and I will be your guide. Today, I want to talk about a topic somebody asked me to touch on, and that was a feelings of emptiness and a loss of a sense of self. Now, this is really a prominent feature of a certain level or stage of maybe schizophrenia or other mental illness, right? And really, it is something that many people experience even without a diagnosis of schizophrenia or any mental illness at all, because I think it is common to the human experience. What I mean is, take, for example, someone who is maybe in a high school or junior high or something like that, a young person, and maybe they, let's say, belong to a particular group. Maybe this group of friends isn't in a popular crowd, but they are support each other. They're friends. They are acting within their values and being themselves, and they're good. But let's say one of them now finds their way into a more popular crowd, and what it means to survive or to live in this new environment is that they have to forsake their values, forsake themselves, the things that made them who they were, that they really liked about themselves. So, for example, maybe they weren't smoking or doing certain drugs. Now they adopted those ways. Maybe they weren't dressing a certain way before, and now they're adopting certain fashion choices that maybe is not productive. Maybe they weren't promiscuous before, and now that's the lifestyle they adopt. So now these person are going to come to a point where they're going to say to themselves, who am I? They're going to feel lost. It's because they betrayed themselves. The things that they know were good. And they left those things, and now they're into an area, an arena that they don't recognize. And the more they continue in these, the further away from themselves they feel, and the deeper into this kind of lifestyle they will venture, and the more miserable they'll be. And the more miserable you are, the more you drown yourself in substance abuse, in certain negative lifestyle choices. You don't know who you are anymore, right? With mental illness now, with schizophrenia, we end up at this place oftentimes. If we want to understand how to get beyond this, we must understand how we get into this into the first place, right? Or at least it'll be beneficial to understand how we got here. It's a similar process as the illustration I just showed you. It just takes a different form. For somebody now with schizophrenia or mental illness of another variety, what happens is an emptying of yourself, right? Just like how that person emptied was emptied of themselves, and they took in all these negative things. They allowed the positive to go while they took in negatives, and the negatives have no value, no substance, no nutrients. They're worse than empty calories. With schizophrenia, it's not a it's not a choice. It's not an intentional choice. It's subtle how this happens, very subtle. You don't make these decisions with your eyes opened. So it's like the whole process of mental illness is about deception, because the goal of it is it's to empty you, right? So it's like the goal of sickness is to make you sick, right? It's to um it's to express itself, and by expressing itself, it causes you to be sick. It's a similar thing with this. But in order for it to make you feel that way, to be sick in this way, it has to empty you of yourself so that it can express itself. For example, and I've gave this example before, somebody who may be going through school, they're a young person, they're striving forward in life, they're free. Maybe they have hopes, they have dreams, they got goals, they got things they want to do. They have a lot of light, you can say, and they're moving forward with a certain positive energy overall. Well, this is a good situation. I'm talking about a normal situation, not people who are struggling with other forms of adversity, maybe in their homes and so forth, in their life and stuff like that. Just a generalization here. So what happens with schizophrenia is that, and this is very subtle, don't know what's happening. Is it, let's say somebody has an outgoing mind, they have courage, it'll take away that courage and put fear inside your heart, right? It'll empty you of courage. It'll suppress it. And then it'll put fear that produces anxieties. And these things will grow. And the person with that courage will just shrink, right? So let's say fear, there's a personality of fear, there's a spirit of fear, there's a mind that is fear. The same with courage. So subdue that courageous mind and elevate a fearful mind. Same thing with paranoia. It's a mind that's paranoid, which is tied to fear. And a mind that was not paranoid was in you, and now you start to suspect your family, start to suspect your friends, start to suspect the government's after you, aliens after you, all kinds of people are after you, and you start to lose that stability, that certainty you had before, that these things were not the case. If anyone would ask you that question before, if you believe those things, you would deny that it wasn't the case. And now that mind, that spirit, that personality is what's dominating you. In order for that to happen, it's got to empty you of that certainty you had, off people, off the situation. It's the same thing for other delusions, hallucinations, and so forth. Helps strengthen these. Fear, you got anxiety, uh, you have hopelessness, doubts, uncertainty, confusion. All these grow, and you become more unstable because there's nothing of substance within these that can keep you standing, that can keep you striving. There's no substance, there's no strength. And this is what lives, this is what is expressing itself. You look at a flower that is in its strength, expressing strength, it stands and it shines, opens up to the world, opens up to the sun, and it declares itself. And then what happens when it gets no rain, no sun? It starts to wilt, it starts to dry up. Or if it gets too much sun, then what starts to express itself is death, starts to express itself through that flower. You cannot express both at the same time. Just like how we cannot express fear and courage at the same time, confusion and certainty at the same time. So they suppress those good qualities so that the negatives may live and may express themselves through us. If there is no substance in these, then you are empty. You will feel empty because you have been emptied of the person you were. You were a certain personality before, a certain life. You had a certain energy you had about you. And that has been emptied. And another personality is now expressing itself. One that cannot stand, that cannot look at life with a certain hope, a certain vigor, with dreams, with a peace. It's one that sees no future, not the future it wants. Its future has been cut off. And so it lives in a low energy state. Even if you're going to work and you're doing this and doing that, it's still, you feel low because these dominate your heart. They're always in the back there, letting you know how you've been emptied. Another thing that can cause this too is the medications that we take. I'm not anti-medication, but I do think there's some negatives to them as well. And one of the things is they can cause you to feel to feel numb to yourself. And so that might be something you might want to talk to your doctor about and see if that's a side effect. And so maybe they can switch your meds a little bit and see if that clears up those feelings. There was a time when I was just in this delusional state, and I remember getting up out of bed and I felt just like an empty shell. I was a shell. I felt so empty, like there was nothing in me. And I felt this, but I never thought it. I just felt it. And my mom, who I thought was a witch, she would read my thoughts. And I heard her say, you're a nut. You're an empty shell. And I remember saying, yes, that's it. I feel like an empty shell. I brought that into an awareness, and I recognized that. Aside from just feeling it, I recognized it. So it's a very can be a frightening situation sometimes when you feel this way and you cannot explain it. You feel numb. Sometimes you're just not happy, you're not sad, you just have a just numb. There's nothing there. You can go about your days and nothing. It's a difficult state to be in when you want to live, when you want to enjoy life, when you want to have relationships, build relationships. It's very difficult. It's hard to ignore. It's a feeling of emptiness. And when you are emptied of yourself, you're going to have a sense of a loss of self because it is not you that's living. It cannot be you because you are a different person. It's a different personality to you. And that's the personality that you want to express, but it's being suppressed by these other personalities. And when I say personalities, I'm not talking about something like DID, where it's different identities, although it is in a sense, in a minor sense, because these illnesses are all related. Like, don't let these names fool you. Like, a lot of times people seek diagnosis and think that this is identifies something different, but it does, but it doesn't. They're all run on the same frequency, right? Or at least very closely related, right? Very close in all these. And so it's just another spirit, it's another energy that's dominating you, right? So a person with a paranoid energy is going to express paranoia. That's the personality they're going to take. It's a paranoid personality, a paranoid mind, right? A person with a let's say a hallucinating mind is going to have those hallucination minds, right? They're going to act, they're going to see things, they're going to express that, they're going to feel things, they're going to hear things, they're going to express that kind of mind. An anxious person is going to express an anxious mind, or through an anxious mind, right? That's going to be a characteristic of that person. They're anxious, right? Becomes part of your personality. So when you feel that sense of a loss of self, is because this is not you that's expressing yourself. The flower is not blooming. It's not blossoming to the world. It's not expressing itself in all its glory. And it wants to, but something else is expressing itself through that vessel, through that mind. And that's schizophrenia in this case. So how do we deal with this? There's a simple way, and there's more roundabout ways. Like for me, I took the simple, more direct ways, was that I let go of all of that. When I felt these emptiness and stuff, I just stopped focusing on that. Right. And I went after the things I wanted in life. Right. So, for example, it's another example I usually talk about because it was the first steps I took, the very first meaningful steps I took in all those years, was to recover my confidence, because I could not hear somebody and without my mind going crazy, just racing, racing, racing with the worst things. I used to listen to music all the time, turn the TV up really loud, watch movies, turn it up really so I couldn't hear nobody, either outside or in the house. And it couldn't be live TV either, because live TV would speak to me. So it had to be like recorded shows. So trying to recover my confidence so I can live without turning on a TV or music, or I can stand that pressure. I started to make my first move by talking to my mom and holding my mind, holding my confidence. Don't let my thoughts run and escape me and start to spiral into paranoid delusions and fears and anxieties. So while I usually she used to come and talk to me while I was in my room, when she came home, I made sure I got up and left my room and go out and say hi to her and have a conversation. And I was sweating. My thoughts was cursing and blaspheming and saying some vile sexual stuff, and just the most wretched things. And my mom was reading my mind, I thought. And it was really embarrassing, some of this stuff. And it things that really made me feel just shaken. But I was determined. This came a point where my knees were so weak, I literally saw my legs ran, left me and just run back to my room, because that's what I was feeling. That's what I was being pulled to do, run back to isolation. I literally saw them just, and I was to follow it. I felt compelled to follow my running legs. But I stood, because I needed to gain something from this moment. I needed to stand there and to stand that pressure. And so I talked to her, and all the things that I felt she was saying, she was really like, this time was really attacking me. When you step out in this manner, you will be attacked. You will be challenged. She was really coming at me with these words, pressuring me to respond in anger, because I was feeling anger and hatred towards her, because it's my mother. I felt betrayed for her trying to work witchcraft on me and kill me and stuff. So I felt that pressure. I felt the nerves to run, the anger, the hatred, all of it. But I had to express myself. I didn't want to hate. I didn't want to be angry, and I didn't want to run. So what I did, I moved towards her, asked her how her day was, took everything she was throwing at me, all the negativity, through the delusion, the hallucination, the auditory, took it all and let it fall. Didn't react to it. My heart was shaking. I was shaking. I was sweating. And after around 5 minutes, I went in and I asked her for a hug, and I kissed her on her cheek, because I didn't want to do that. But I know I needed to, because I needed to gain something from this. And after that, I walked back to my room, and I nearly collapsed in my room, because it was a very stressful moment. And it was such a relief, but yet I didn't thought about how difficult it was. I was filled with an energy that I'm going to do the same thing again tomorrow, because I was purposed in my mind. I was determined to break through. That was my resolve. That was my determination. It's not something that everyone could do. I know that. I've seen people try it and crashed, burned. It's not something that everyone could do. I rather it's not something that everyone feels they can do. But I believe everyone can do it. But at some point they doubt themselves, and then that's when things go downhill. But another way, instead of going that direct route, or maybe you're not in that situation per se where you're that having that kind of experience. So but you still experience that sense of a loss of self and an emptiness. And sometimes, like for me, that was a goal I set for myself. So setting goals, strive towards those goals. And I'm not talking about goals, you can have the big goal, right? Because my goal was to uh, eventually get a job, make some money, move out, get a place of my own. But I started small. I didn't just go from there and go out and get a job. I would have friggin' sunk. That would have been rough. But unfortunately, I was in a position where I could do that living with my mom. But if I had to go out there, I I would have done it, but it wouldn't have been an easy thing. And I say I would have sunk, because just for 5 minutes talking with my mom, and then after that, my legs got so weak. But well, it's another thing when you have to do something, and you got to do it. But that's how you start. You have your big goal, and sometimes people want to, when you're looking at, maybe you grow up with your certain friends and your family, and you see everybody around you, maybe your younger sibling, coming up and passing you in life. Everyone's striving and being successful and going here and doing all this and gaining the things that you want, and you're left behind. They don't have the time for you anymore, because they're doing their thing, and you're left behind. And that makes you feel just down. because you can't attain your goals because of what you're going through. I would say this: don't look at anybody else. Everybody has their struggles. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean they don't have it. May not look just like yours, but they have it. And if they don't have it, they're going to get it. We all have battles, one form or another. Just happens that yours is this thing and it's now. That's all it is. Just like how some people might look at you and don't know what the heck you're going through. Don't look at people and think about people and presume what they're going through. Everyone has their battles. Yours is right there in front of you. And when you start looking at other people and comparing, my wife always says, she likes to say, saying she likes comparison is the thief of joy. Right? And comparison keeps you stuck. It's the wrong vision that you have in front of your eyes. So don't compare. Look at what you have in front of you and worry about getting beyond that. Because once you get through this, things can start move more quickly for you. But the more you sit there comparing, the slower things progress. You just wander around in that darkness. So you don't want to compare, but you might want to see where you want to be, and then start taking steps to get there. Now, if you're having those feelings and if you're in that position, one of the things you can do in order to make gains is to help reach your goal is to maybe talk to somebody about how you're feeling. Sometimes you feel a certain way, but it hasn't yet taken a form that you can do something about it, right? Remember how I felt like a nut, like a shell, and it was only when I heard my mom say it and then I thought it that I actually brought it into awareness per se, a higher level of awareness. It's like it gave a life to it that I recognize. It's almost tangible. So when you talk to somebody, it means you have to take that feeling and bring it up into a higher level of awareness to a thought. And then from that thought to now bring it into a higher level of awareness to a word. I need to talk to somebody about this. I need help because I'm experiencing this. This is what I'm experiencing. And now when you verbalize it, it takes on another life, another level of like tangibility, I guess. And so that you can now wrestle with it, you can deal with it. It's a form that you can now start to do something about. That's why maybe talk to a family, a friend, people you trust, or a therapist. But just be careful. Don't get stuck where some people get stuck in that they use therapy and these things as a means to just wander around in a circle again. You express these things and then you take some time to express them and then you move forward. Don't live there. You're only trying to find ways to get beyond this, right? So you have to have a mindset that says, I'm going forward, right? So recognizing how you feel, talking about your feelings, put that out. I know for me, I felt I never had no one to talk to. And there was a time all I wanted to do was express myself, to talk to somebody just to say, this is what I'm going through. This is like to plead my case, to say, this is This is all that's happening, and I don't know what to do. I'm so frustrated and I'm afraid. But I never had anyone to talk to because the moment I tried, I would get pushed back by the illness, right? I would hear them read my mind and then kind of, you know, just makes me not be able to trust them. So I had to suffer in silence, right? And that's a whole nother level of suffering. So don't be that person. If you have people you can talk to, you don't have any negatives towards them, then yeah, talk to them. So set goals, talk to people, find a hobby, you know, something you can do that can that you might be able to enjoy, right? Sometimes just going for a walk, right? Just go for a walk, activity, right? Do some activities. Maybe it's go for a walk, get some sunshine, look at life, look at uh look at just the world and recognize the beauty in things and embrace that. Sometimes I remember being in the hospital there and I felt so miserable inside. And then I went outside with a tube in my nose and run to my stomach, IV. And I went outside and I sat on the bench and the sun just, oh my gosh, I felt so good in that sun. It was just so nice. Sometimes you don't feel like going out there, but once you get out there, it's like, man, it feels good. Because all these things now, what you're doing is you're challenging yourself because what you want is not going to come easy. You're going to fight for it. And you've got to pull those in, and then those other things are going to try to push back because those personalities don't want to die either, right? They want to thrive in you, but you have to push them out by pulling in the good stuff. I remember I was so lost at one point that they called me the face thief, and the face thief was I used to read comic books when I was a kid, and it was I don't know why that even came into my mind. It was a character. It was like a one comic book I read. It was in there. I forgot which book it was. And there's a character that can, like a villain, that could change his face, his appearance, and they would make me feel like take on the face of other people. Like I would literally feel like my face morphed into other people. And I can also act like them, like I'd feel like I could act like them. Sometimes it'd be females too. And I'd take on female features. And I would like kind of feel like expressing female, the way, feminine ways, right? Different people, man, woman. It was weird. Sometimes I think even animals, right? But it's all to show me that I could not express myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was so lost. Different personalities trying to take me over, right? And that was our what was has take did take me over with the paranoia and the anxiety and the fears and all these things. It's very subtle. This thing's very cunning. So uh by living in a way that moves forward to your goals, you pull in the confidence, you pull in the faith, you pull in the hope, you pull in all these good things. And that's what now begins to fill you. You start to feel yourself again. You start to feel your energy again. And then you start to grow And these things start to push out, to shrink and push out. But it takes consistency. It takes determination. All these things you have to pull in because they're more like personalities per se, character traits, the things that you want that will lead you to success in anything. You have to pull those in and grow into them. Right? The mistake people make is that they start and things get a little bit shaky and they start to spin and they start to get, and they lose themselves. They start to fear, they start to panic. They don't know where they are and they get knocked down. They give into panic. They start to doubt and then they go right back and remain down instead of, oh, you get knocked down, you come back to your senses, get back up. All right, I got to get back at this. You took a loss, get back in the ring. Find a way that you can, if you get hit, you can still maintain yourself. Even if you're spinning, you still have your center. Doesn't matter if you're spinning, as long as you can hold to your center, you can wait it out. You can wait it out. But sometimes we lose our center. We lose the thing, that certainty that we might have that can keep us centered. There's got to be something. Like for me, it was certain Bible verses. I use those to center me. So it doesn't matter where I was, what was going on. I know this was, I didn't know anything, but I knew this was true. And as long as I held to that, I'll always come back to that. I never lost it. And that's the kind of mindset you use that to steady yourself when you get hit and you start to flip in and losing yourself. And to remain calm and purposeful, intentional in your actions, in your words. You're moving with purpose. You cannot afford to move just on a subconscious level. You have to be conscious, awake, because how we get in this trouble is through the subconscious, through not being aware. And so we get moved into this area. And when we're awake, it's too late. We were so deep in it, we don't know how the heck to get out of it. We feel trapped. But once you start recognizing that you can get out of it, and you start to plan a path, you start to take action. Don't wait. Sometimes we just want to wait to get things and get things settled before we take action, but that's not the way it works. You have to take action, believe first that it is possible, and then you start to take that faith. Faith is an action word. It's like love. It's a verb. When you believe, it causes you to act. Causes you to act. And once you start acting, now you are taking on the personalities that you want to acquire, taking on all that good stuff. You become them. Because you remember, you took on the paranoia, you took on the anxiety, you took on the fear, you took on the doubt, you took on the confusion, you expressed all those. Now you got to go and take on courage, take on confidence, take on faith, take on hope. You got to express those again and again and again, and you got to continually do this in order to get them to set into the heart and start to grow in you. Faith and doubt cannot exist in the same space at the same time, right? Love and hate can't exist. Confusion and certainty can't exist. So that's why you embody those and you hold those and you strive toward those. and they will grow in you, and then you'll start to recognize yourself once again. That's the way to get beyond this. And purpose is something you give yourself. You want a purpose in life, you feel like there's no purpose. Well, what do you want to do? Don't wait for someone to give you a purpose. You got to determine what the heck you want and strive for it. Like, I didn't know I wanted to be an electrician. I didn't even know what I want to do in life, but I wanted to get my mind back. I wanted to work. Well, I had to work to get my mind back. That was my purpose. That was my determination. That was my desire. And as you start to move forward, the world starts to open up beyond that, and you start to see broader, and you start to make more decisions. You can start seeing, have more options open up to you. Don't wait for a purpose. I have no purpose. Well, give yourself purpose, right? Recovery is purpose. Retaking your mind is purpose. So sometimes these things are right in front of us, but we're looking beyond them. We're looking 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. We're trying to measure up to other people, measure up to expectations of society or everybody else, or what we see everybody else have. We're trying to have that. It's not it. This is where you are in this moment. This is your path. Everybody's walking their own path. You got to walk your path. It's difficult because there's so much coming at us. We have to struggle against so much. Sometimes that's part of the battle, is taking our focus off other people, taking the focus off 5 years down the road, taking the focus off what we think we're missing out on, what we're going to miss out on. That's part of the battle. Narrowing the focus is part of the battle. And you'll understand all of this when you get to the other side, because all that you gain here, you're going to use it down the road to achieve your goals, your real goals, which is where you want to go in life. These are the rules to success. They're not in vain. The struggle doesn't have to be in vain. But it's our lack of understanding that keeps us too afraid to move, just lost on everything else. So anyway, I'm gonna end this video right here. I think I've said a lot more than perhaps necessary, but hopefully that helped. I know it's a long video, and I don't know if you made it this far, then great. But I do want to I thought about making it real short or shorter, but you know what? Somebody asked me about this, so I want to make it for them. And anybody else, that's great if you get through it. But if somebody thought enough about this to ask me about it, then I'm sorry it took me so long to get to it. It's just, I had a lot going on. But hopefully it helps. And yeah, until next time.